Well, hello again. We are going to be doing composition of trig values today, and I am at school in my room, so there might be some extra noise outside. There's some people walking around outside, so if you hear a lot of banging around, it's not crazy chaos at my house, it's crazy chaos in the hallway. Anyway, we're going to be finding exact values of some expressions, and there's going to be composition of trig values, which means we're going to have trig values inside of trig values. It's like inception for trig values. All right, so we're going to try an example. An example would be secant of the arc sine of 5/7. This means to find the secant of the angle that has a sine of 5/7. And we're not going to actually have to find the angle. We're just going to draw this angle in the correct quadrant whose sine is 5/7, and then we're going to find the secant using that triangle, and we really won't have to find the angle. Let me show you what I mean by that. We're first of all going to work inside out. The arc sine of a positive number means that we're going to draw a triangle in quadrant 1. And we're going to label the opposite side of 5 and the hypotenuse a 7. Because, of course, arc sine is opposite over hypotenuse. And if we do our Pythagorean theorem here, 7 squared minus 5 squared, we're going to get 49 minus 25, which is going to be 24. So c squared, actually that would be a b squared, is equal to 24. So we're going to get the square root of 24 for b, which is 2 radical 6, because 24 is 4 times 6. Yeah. All right, so we're going to get 2 square roots of 6 for our adjacent side. So we just have to find the secant of this angle. And we're not going to actually find the angle, we're just going to find the secant of that angle. And of course secant is adjacent over, well, it's the reciprocal of adjacent over hypotenuse, because cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. Secant is hypotenuse over adjacent. So the secant of the arc sine of 5/7 is going to be 7 over 2 square roots of 6. So we're just going to work inside out. Again, we found the arc sine of 5/7. We didn't actually find the angle, but we did label the triangle. And we found the secant of that angle by doing hypotenuse over adjacent. Let's do another example. Let's find the cotangent of the arc secant of negative 3/2. Boy, look at all those parentheses. Do-to-do. All right, so we're going to work from the inside out. We want to, we see that the arc secant of negative 3/2, this is the same thing as the arc cosine of negative 2/3. So working inside out, I'm going to make this angle the arc cosine of something that's negative. So we're going to draw our triangle in the second quadrant. Remember, the range of arc cosine is 0 to 180. And if it's negative, our triangle goes in the second quadrant. So cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. So we'll label our adjacent side negative 2, and our hypotenuse will be a 3. So the Pythagorean theorem to find the other side would be 9 minus 4, which is 5. So this is going to be the square root of 5. Okay, so this is our angle theta here. Well, that's our reference angle. But we can find the cotangent of this angle without actually finding the angle because we have the triangle. And for cotangent, we need the opposite of tangent. So instead of opposite over adjacent, I'm going to do adjacent over opposite. And I'm going to get negative 2 over the square root of 5. Okay, let me extend my page. Full view here. Let's get out of full view because that didn't work very well. Mold selector here. There, how about that? We'll try page 2. I hope you didn't see all that fail there, but I'm sure you did. Anyway, let's do another example. Let's find the cosecant. I can't do that until I do, let's write in red now. Let's find the cosecant of the arctan of -5. Ooh, I like the red color. Alright, so we are going to work inside out, and we're going to have to draw our triangle for the arctan of -5, and arctan negative, we're going to put this in quadrant 4, because our range for arctan is -90 to 90. And of course I'll put a 1 underneath that, so arctan is opposite over adjacent. And the Pythagorean theorem says that this is going to be the square root of 26. There's our angle, and although we don't know what this angle is, we just want to find the cosecant of that angle. So cosecant is the reciprocal of sine. So since sine is opposite over hypotenuse, cosecant is going to be hypotenuse over opposite. So this is going to equal negative the square root of 26 over 5. How's that look? That's good. Alright, let's do an example where we have the inverse trig function on the outside. So let's do the arcsecant of the cosecant of -π/6. Okay, here we're going to find the fraction that is the cosecant of -π/6, and then we'll find the arcsecant of that fraction. So our answer here is going to actually end up being an angle. This is the first time where we actually are going to need to find the angle. So let's work inside out. Let's draw -π/6. That's down here. Woohoo! Look at that opposite side. That's awful pretty. Alright. Cosecant of -π/6. So π/6 is a 30-degree reference angle. So I'm going to do a 30, 60, 90 triangle here. I'll put a 1 across from the 30, and of course it's negative because we're going down. I'll put a square root of 3 across from the 60 and a 2 on the hypotenuse. So let's find the cosecant of this angle. Cosecant is the reciprocal of sine. So instead of opposite over hypotenuse, I'm going to do hypotenuse over opposite, and that's going to be -2. So I now want to find the arcsecant of -2, which is, of course, the arc cosine of -1/2. So I'm going to go over here and figure out my range for arc cosine is 0 to 180, and since it's negative, I'm going to draw my triangle in quadrant 2, label my sides as adjacent over hypotenuse. Of course, that's a square root of 3 opposite, so this reference angle is 60 degrees, or a π/3 reference angle. So my answer is 2π/3. How's that look? See, I don't know, my pie's pretty fat there, but anyway. Alright, let's try one more example. Let's do the sine of the arcsecant of -5/8. Again, we're going to work inside out, and let's see if we can't draw this triangle. Arcsecant is the same thing as arc cosine of the reciprocal of -5/8, which is -8/5. Get around there, Mr. 8. Okay. So when we're doing an arc cosine, we have a range from 0 to 180, and we go over here in quadrant 2 because it's negative, and we do -8/5, and when we do the Pythagorean theorem, we get 25 minus 64, and we get the square root of a negative number. What is that, -39? Which is like, what? How am I going to do that? And you're like, oh, wait a minute. The hypotenuse can't be smaller than the adjacent side, so that means there's no solution to the inside of the angle. I'm sorry, the inside of the composition function. So since there's no solution to the arcsecant of -5/8, we can't take the sign of no solution. That doesn't make any sense. So this is a does not exist answer. And that is all you need to know for your work on Monday. Have a good weekend.